So today in studio, we've got EJ and Katherine from Fractional Law Firm CMO. They started this business a little bit over a year ago, just shy, about 13 months ago, and really have hit the ground running. They took their experience and turned it into an awesome opportunity for themselves. It's really it's so awesome to see people wake up one day and go, "Hey, we should do this," and then went and did it. Right? That's the whole the whole idea around the podcast is talking to people that were so optimistic that something was going to happen and then made it happen and then continue to make it grow and get better. They tell their story from when it started 20 years ago, the relationship and their experience to where they are today and how they're growing in the future. They give some really good tips on things that we all of our businesses should do about consistency, and about just executing and showing up every day. And, not every time that you're at the plate that it's got to go over the fence, just keep swinging. So it's such a great listen and such a great story, but you guys are really going to enjoy this one today. So here we go. You guys took a really long time to put this whole thing together. This was a cake you were making for a decade.
No, actually, quite the contrary. It was, it's always really funny. My husband still says to me, why didn't you tell me about this idea? How long have you been baking over it? It was like during a football game, during Labor Day weekend. I was hauled up in at a lake house with my family and had just gotten off a call with a headhunter trying to get me to come back to Big Law. And we need CMOs like you, EJ. And it was one of those moments where I was like, this isn't never, but this is definitely not right now. And it made me think, gosh, if these big firms are so desperate for talent, what about these small and mid-sized firms? And we'd been talking about getting the band back together, if you will. And so Katherine was leading this big merger and doing all great things at Troutman. And I called her up one day and said, hey, I have this crazy idea. Why don't you quit your job and come join me? And we sort of talked over it for a couple weeks. We literally, I think, put the website together, got the idea together in a matter of weeks, and went live and said, we're going to do this and we're going to iterate and we're going to, it's not going to be perfect. We're not going to let perfect get in the way of progress. We just hit the ground running, and it's been an incredible first year.
I thought y'all had been doing it a little longer.
No, launched last December, and it's been amazing. And, we really haven't paid for any of our own marketing. I mean, we're trying to practice what we preach. A lot of our clients come through our own network, our own business development, and LinkedIn, and frankly, Google. As flashy as Fractional Law Firm CMO might seem, it gets us so many Google hits. It's amazing. Just our literal name. We have a ton of people that come just by Google, which I'm just astounded by.
Yeah, it's wild. And I think the branding is a big piece of it. I think we hit, the day we launched, from that moment forward, we were fully branded. We had the look and feel, the tone and voice, and we were very consistent in our messaging and our go-to-market strategy. And I think that's testament to the power of brands, right? Perception is reality. And in our first few months, we were getting exactly as you said, how long have you guys been around? How long have you guys been doing this? And we were like, 2 months, but it's been amazing.
I think that goes to show what a good idea it was. If you have people immediately saying, holy cow, where has this been all my life, kind of a thing.
I think it also goes to show that you can't be afraid to put yourself out there, getting out of your comfort zone. We were actually looking yesterday, I think we did 64 TikTok videos, which for people who are TikTok creators, that doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a lot for us. And, breaking out of your comfort zone, I never thought I'd be doing a bunch of TikTok videos. So just that kind of stuff, just put yourself out there and try to be authentic, and it will resonate.
And I couldn't agree more. I mean, that kind of what y'all are talking about is the heart of the podcast, right? Is to, like, you were so optimistic that it was going to work. Like, you're like, this is going to be great. We're going to do this tomorrow. Let's go. And you burned the boats, and you're like, we're doing it. It's going to happen. And so far, so good. So what was when was your first client? And then how did it grow from there?
Yeah. First client, I think we launched December. First client we started with in February. Well-known, well-respected litigation boutique. And it was one of those organic conversations, two parents chit-chatting at a birthday party, lamenting about challenges at work. Mm-hmm. And my husband was like, oh, this is what EJ does. Like, they just launched this business, and it's kind of been nonstop ever since. We've gotten referrals from all over the place.
She leans in on the business development side, in part because she's just naturally a great business developer. I mean, it comes very natural to her, whereas for me, not as much. I definitely have to focus more on it. But for her, she is very natural at creating and maintaining relationships. And I think that's why she's such a great coach, because, she practices what she preaches. And a lot of our first, clients came through her relationships, because she's just so good at maintaining those contacts.
That's a special skill.
And I will say, I think in my mind, when I had initially had this idea, I thought we were the perfect yin and yang. And I think it works because we know each other so well, worked together for so long, and had such mutual respect. And our strengths are so complementary. I mentioned branding and perception is such a big part of the game. And there's no better person with in-house experience in legal running branding than Katherine. And so it's sort of marrying our two strengths together, and where we're comfortable and leaning into that. And it's kind of been an incredible partnership. And I think half of it was marrying the strengths, but the other half was really knowing each other and trusting each other, and knowing at the end of the day, we had the same passion and also the same work ethic to drive us forward.
With partnerships can sometimes be a challenge when it comes to running a business. And so having that, that you guys play the sort of yin to each other's yang, and like where your strengths are versus where your strengths are, and you complement each other really well. I think that's a good thing to have, and I think that matters a lot when you're trying to grow a business.
Mm-hmm. We've had very little kerfuffles.
Spell that.
10 years, 10 years working together and seeing it all and dealing with very difficult people along the way really bonds you in a way that few things can.
So, I wrote down, I was like about your roles in the company, and I think you kind of defined that a little bit. Is there a lot of crossover, or do you guys stay in two completely different lanes?
That's a really great question. I think we see our roles working hand in hand. We do a lot of strategy and strategic advising for our clients, and really stepping in and serving in that CMO capacity. And so there's the two sides of the house. There's certainly the, how do we generate greater revenue? How do we drive more business? But to get there, right, there's so much of that branding and that classic marketing that's needed to elevate and build that brand in the marketplace, particularly in a very virtual post-COVID world. And so we work very closely hand in hand on most of our clients, depending on the needs, depending on the challenges. One of us often steps in and takes the lead. But I think to really service any law firm, you need both sides of the house speaking and talking to each other and working in tandem.
And what I would say is, while EJ leans in on business development and I might lean in on the marketing side, she's been CMO over the functions, and I have done business development. So it really helps that we can speak each other's language, and that it's not like we're completely separate or removed. In a pinch, if I disappeared for 2 months, she could take over, and vice versa. So that helps a lot.
That sounds nice.
Not that I'm going to disappear on you for 2 months, but
that's right. That's right.
While I'm at the fireplace, she can run it.
Yeah. Uh-huh. So what are your ideal clients? Size, location, current teams? Like what are some of the things you look for when you say, all right, these guys are perfect for us?
Our clients run the gamut. And I think sort of taking a step back, while we have varied backgrounds, we really work depending on the type of client. So AmLaw 100 firms. So these are firms that are usually 600 plus to multi-thousand. We do a lot of training and coaching, so workshops and training. But our sweet spot, I would say, and Katherine, correct me if I'm wrong, are anywhere from, I don't know, 20 to 2 years. Firms that need that sophistication, that are today as competitive as these big firms, but have slightly lower rates. Their leverage is better. They are better positioned where that partner is serving the client. It's not sort of a 4th or 5th year associate. But they may not have that level of sophistication in terms of their marketing because they haven't been as competitive with the big boys, if you will. And I think we hit a turning point post-pandemic where law firm rates just went through the roof. First it was a $1,000 an hour, and now we're up to $2,000 an hour for some of the big New York firms. And corporations and businesses realize they can get just as good of service from these mid-size and smaller firms. But in many of these instances, these firms may have half a person, one person, 2 people supporting them in the marketing function, and they're sort of generalists. And so for us, that sweet spot is coming in and offering and driving that sophisticated legal marketing strategy and then helping them implement it along the way.
Yeah. And I would say that we really enjoy, having been in-house ourselves, we enjoy working with the in-house team. And oftentimes that team, like EJ said, they might have 1 or 2 people, sometimes half a person. They have all the needs that the other firms have, but they just don't have all the people to be able to do it.
Yeah. I find a lot in companies of that size or firms of that size, stuff like that, they'll hire someone as a marketing director, but that person typically has a very verticalized skill set. Like they are great with social, or they understand SEO and the website, right. But it's usually not a broad base where they can develop a strategy and say, all right, here's where we are, and here's where I want to take us, and here's how we're going to get there. And, or they weren't hired as that kind of like that CMO, which is all right, okay, I know how to organize everyone. I know who to hire to get these things done. I'm going to come up with a plan, and I'm going to have all the other people execute it. That I tend to see that not just in legal, but in a lot of other companies around that same size of, how do we get to the next step and hire an in-house marketing team, but then nobody knows how to get that in-house marketing person to, create and execute on this bigger strategy.
Yeah. And I think firms sometimes don't understand that there is a difference between business development and marketing. They are often very different skill sets. And so they'll hire one person hoping to cover everything. And, you've got not only the skill sets within business development, but, someone might be more of an events person or more of a PR person or more of a comms person. And, you can't expect one person to be able to magically be able to do every single function.
Oh, they can.
Yeah. Well,
they can, Katherine. Watch me now. And I think we're in a really unique position because we truly are offering to our sweet spots with sort of that small, mid-sized law firm, truly fractional services. So they're hiring us often for a bucket of time or hours to utilize both Katherine and I, and then we have a great roster of what we call marketing associates who really help with the research and the analysis, but give us the leverage and the expertise from working at firms to help build out at a more cost-effective manner. So it's been fun. But you're right. I think, why did this person fail? It's their fault. Well, they failed because you hired them to do something vastly different than their capabilities, and that's not their fault. But when you only have a team of 1 or 2, it limits your abilities, particularly as a company grows.
That's right. You hired a lion to be an elephant, and then you're mad when it doesn't work.
Right. That's exactly right. It happens all too often.
That's right.
But what I like is, for different firms, for one firm, we're doing like podcasts and managing all their social. For another firm, we're doing a complete analysis and building out their strategic plan. For another firm, so everything is very customized to things that the different firms need. It's not, we are helping to facilitate websites, but we're also coming up with, doing financial analysis of their client base and seeing where the opportunities are and getting a strategy around that. So it's very different client to client, which is fun.
Yeah, that going back to, you talked a little bit about TikTok and the videos y'all are doing, which I think was that for the law firms, or was that for your firm?
It's for us.
Okay.
So we do
Well, let's
it,
circle.
and I don't even. Yeah.
We'll circle back to that because I want to talk about that. But I do want to, let's go back to execution, because you made I think one of the difficult things as an agency, and especially a small agency, is that this client over here wants breakfast, and this one wants dinner, and this one wants appetizers, right? And I'm even oversimplifying that. Like they like doing social media for one person and a website for another person. That's two different languages. That's not even close.
Right.
How are you managing the skill sets and taking care of the stuff that they're having a hard time taking care of? What's been your process so far that's worked for you?
I think that was a big part of our first year, is figuring out what is it that we do and what is it that we don't do. So for example, we have a really great PR person that we partner with, but we don't say that we're PR experts. We refer her to the clients, and we work with her to, here's the firm strategy. So we help kind of translate, but the contract is with the firm and our PR contact, right? So similarly, we have a website vendor so we oversee, we help manage, we help with the content, but that person is the one who's actually coding the site, right? So we're truly acting as a CMO would, where we're bringing in the right resources to accomplish those. And so I think, we've landed on a good picture of, okay, what is it that we do versus what is it that we're managing vendors for? And a lot of it is around strategy and research and competitive analysis. And we have a fractional CFO that works with us. And so digging into firm financials and profitability and that kind of information. And then on the social media side, we do have marketing associates that are on the team where we are producing the graphics, we're producing the content. I would say that we're very strong around content production and building out brand focused content and pushing it out, mostly on LinkedIn. That's usually where our clients focus. EJ, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I'll echo that and sort of add that one of the greatest things about knowing each other and working together for 10 years prior to launching this is that we are very, very open and honest about what our strengths are and where we see growth opportunities. And so as we've grown over the last year, and initially it was getting a roster of really talented contracts and consultants, and then as we look to expand to our full-time hires, it was sort of, where do we need expertise? Where do we lack expertise, or where can we advise, but we need someone to sort of be the mastermind? So we have someone who is a digital genius. She ran all of marketing and digital on every platform you can imagine for her prior company. And that is just a skill and a strength that we needed, because as you know, so much post-COVID, so much of our playground and so much of how we engage with one another is virtual and via LinkedIn. And so that was a critical skill we needed to be able to solve for our clients. And then, as Katherine said, the research and the analysis and sort of the digging in and really understanding how law firms operate and what it's like to build a strategy or a PR plan. And so that was our other hire. We have these two incredibly talented people on our team, plus some awesome contractors and consultants that really round out where we saw opportunities for growth that our clients really needed, that we alone weren't able to fill, and sort of the limited hours of the.
Yeah, like you said, y'all are the CMOs, and you're pulling together a team to execute on the strategy. That's perfect. It's exactly what it should be, right? I love it.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about what some of the things you've done in the last 12 months to really help your firm grow, and not just because, and you brought up the TikTok stuff, but it usually in your first year, you're relying a lot on, and I say my experience was I'd get it through referrals, people I would meet talking to, and then the rest of the time you're doing the work. So you're almost a cobbler's kids. Like, it's really hard to focus on marketing for yourself and, trying to do things outside of just the basics. So what is it that you guys feel like you've done really well? Where do you feel like your strengths and weaknesses are? Where are some things you want to do better, through this year?
I think Katherine nailed it earlier when she said we took the name very literally, and that's been remarkably a huge piece of people know what we do. If they Google looking for a fractional CMO, a term very common in sort of the tech space, but less so in the legal space, we are sort of top of search engine optimization. But I think sort of the other two core pillars for our success are the branding piece. So LinkedIn, we hit it hard. We had a very consistent branding and messaging, and we hit it almost every day. I think we had 360 something posts in the last year. And sort of always being top of mind on that platform has been, I think, critical to our success. And the other pieces, because you're right, it's so hard to prioritize the relationship building, the business generation, when you're bogged down with so much work you don't know what to do. And we had moments where I was like, I don't think we can do it anymore. But as I say to my coaching clients, when you're busiest, it's the most critical time to be out there and continuing to cultivate those relationships and stay top of mind. Because when things dry up, it's too late. Business development cycles can take, 7 to 10 touches. It can take 3 months to 10 years. We've been really lucky to have people that we've worked with over the last 20, 40 years combined who came back to us and who thought of us and who asked us to help when they launched their new firm. I think I got an email at 3 a.m. Hey, I just gave notice at my firm. We want you to run all of our marketing. We're launching in 3 weeks ago. But yeah, so it's sort of a never ending cycle. But I think for us, the sort of the branding, the business development, and really making it a frontline priority at all times. And then sort of the luck of our name, frankly, that was just a random thing I strung together and said, what do you think about this, Katherine? I've already incorporated it.
I think, it's amazing how many people there are a lot of lurkers on social media, right? There are a lot of people who watch social media, but they don't necessarily engage. So sometimes you feel like you're putting things out there and no one's seeing it, but they are. And when we go to in-person events or we have a speaking opportunity, we have so many people that come up to us and say, oh my gosh, either they recognize us, or they've known us, but they're like, I see you guys all the time. I see you everywhere. Well, they're seeing us because we're posting every day on LinkedIn. It's not that we're, everywhere. It's that we're just we're keeping the consistency up. And that's what I think. I actually just did a TikTok about this. It's that if you want to amplify your brand, it comes down to consistency and authenticity. And I think those are the two things that we really strive to do in all of our communications is, have us actually come through in whatever it is that we're communicating and do it consistently.
Yeah. Show up and be yourself to a fault.
Right.
To a fault.
Yeah. Well, you know what? If they're not going to like you, then being a false version of you isn't going to, eventually they're just going to figure out who you are anyways. And that'll be that. So you might as well just be yourself. And that way you get to enjoy it a hell of a lot more than if you're having to fake it the whole time.
It's exhausting to try to pretend to be someone else, right?
It's exhausting to be yourself.
Yeah. But we know when we need a good cop, we send in Katherine. When we need a bad cop or someone to be a lot more direct, sometimes I have to be that person. But I mean, that's just, it's very much who we are, right? It's, and I loved, we were just on the phone with someone else, a CMO in the industry, and he made the comment, what's so great about you guys is that you are sophisticated and you have the knowledge and you have the experience, but you're also so very approachable. And I think that's right, because I think we really try to be our authentic selves. Like, this is who you're going to get, whether you like it or not, and this is how we're going to behave and engage with others, which has it's been really fun. sort of creating our own roles and living like a really fun life for the last year and many more years hopefully to come.
So tell me about what's big for this year. What are the big plans for this year?
Well, we're going to launch our own podcast. I'm manifesting
I
that
like
right
that.
now.
Yeah.
Very soon, coming soon. We're working on a book. That is something that will happen this year. It will get published. And then, we'll see where the world takes us. We've been incredibly fortunate. We've had so many fun and incredible opportunities and met, great new friends that you feel like you've known them for a lifetime, and it's only been a few months or a year. And I suspect there'll be a lot more of that as we
so far
continue.
I think we have a speaking engagement every month up through May. So it's been busy. I feel like a big part, I think, is getting our team. We're going to have a team retreat in a couple months, and that's going to be good because right now we're all operating remotely. So we'll get together as a team. So I look forward to our team continuing to gel and bond and,
Yeah, I think that's necessary. We work in an office here, so we see each other every day. So going and doing something together is probably not exciting for them. I think they've had enough of me. But I think that's a really important thing, right? When everybody is so fragmented physically, that being able to sit down and be in person, I think is a huge thing. So that's awesome that y'all are doing that. Do you know, what are the plans? Where are y'all going to go? What are you going to do?
TBD. I think Florida, because several of our team members are in Florida. We'll rent an Airbnb, do a little escape artist. Maybe there'll be an escape game in there. Some good food.
Jay and I are both really into escape games. So I don't know if the other teammates are, but they should watch out. We're into
it.
Like, are you talking like going to the places and trying to escape from the rooms kind of a thing?
Yeah. There's nothing like team bonding when you're like arguing and yelling at one another. No, you're doing it wrong. You're wasting time.
People who are not good, who, aren't good teammates on escaping. So hopefully we all get along.
I know. This could be the best or the worst idea you've ever had.
Yeah. Good food, lots of good wine and good times. And then just brainstorming and really, and you probably appreciate this, Gail, but when you're so busy, and we've been so fortunate, it's sort of often a do as I say, not as I do. And so we were building out a full sort of marketing strategy for one of our clients, and one of our new hires a few months ago said, "So do you have this for Fractional? And do you have the marketing pillars? And we were like, no, we did like a year ago, and it's evolved, but investing that time right on yourself is so critical to your growth and development." And so I think this retreat is what we've been talking about, a podcast since the day we started, but it's happening, and we now have a team to hold us accountable and to help us drive and create great things.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah, nothing is as humbling as when you have a team and they're like asking for those kinds of structures, right?
Yeah.
Just getting health insurance for the team. I mean, things like that, getting the payroll set up and the health insurance and the this and the that. I mean, there's so much that goes into building the business side beyond the work.
For sure. It really is. And you end up working backwards a lot, it feels like. But it's worth it when you do it. And we've had some of those same experiences, and what you've talked about, like I had a plan, but it essentially got lit on fire after we either exceeded it or ran over it or lost it.
Right.
And then you have to start a new one, and then something breaks that one and you start a new one. And I think that's sort of the toil it's good for you, but at the same time, sometimes it's a little frustrating. Well, I can't thank you guys enough for coming and spending some time with me. I'm excited for your podcast, and I'm going to wear y'all out about getting it started and going, and your book. Yeah, we heard it here. We heard it here first. I told a couple of people last year I was going to write a book this year too. So I started the podcast last year, and then the book hopefully will come out next year. But I have no idea what and how I'm going to do it. I'm just going to figure it out. Right? That's what we do. We wing it.
Figure it out.
But before you go, I want a couple of books and a couple of podcasts that you guys are into right now.
I read no nonfiction.
That's okay. That's okay. It could be anything.
Atomic Habits is great. I'm a big fan. I usually have it on my desk. In fact, what else is on my desk at all times? I'm also a really like productivity is a random area that I somehow ended up specializing in during COVID and doing a ton of work in. And Essentialism is a fabulous book. If you haven't read it, it makes you think about productivity, boundary setting, and sort of leaning into your best and highest use in a way that I don't know. I hadn't thought about. And is it, I'm such a nerd, Katherine. I know I am. But really, I do think it's hard in a post-COVID world where we're all working remote. It's hard to set those healthy workplace boundaries. It's hard to lean into what we know is our best and highest use when we're racing from meeting to meeting. And so helping people find that balance and create greater productivity is so critical to anyone's success. And I think it's helped us really stay focused and drive forward. See, you didn't even need to read it, Katherine. You just follow my crazy principles. We're good to
Done.
go.
So do you guys listen to any podcasts that you like? Anything that even if it's an escape?
You do.
I listen to a lot of crime podcasts and a lot of like murder mystery podcasts.
This is my look of surprise.
Yeah, I do as well. I'm like looking through. I'm excited for the new Dr. Death. I'm not gonna lie. All of mine are trash.
That's okay. So
trash
there's nothing wrong with that. What was funny is that you're talking about productivity, and there's this podcast I like listening to called Founders, which this guy does like an hour-long synopsis of a biography or an autobiography, and he's got a great backlog. But anyways, I was listening to Ernest Hemingway's today. I'll take a walk from the office and I'll listen to 30 minutes and walk back, which is really, Ernest Hemingway truly lived a charmed life and was very interesting. But you talk about productivity. Hemingway was a known, right? He was thirsty like all the time, known drinker, but would get up every morning and write until noon or whatever, and then he'd go fishing and drinking, doing whatever, and then back to writing every day. And I'm like, how do you get talent obviously was his skill. You had to be good at what you do to do as well as he did. But I'm like, how did he get all that work done?
It's incredible. Mm-hmm. It's so incredible. And you're like, and how did I would be passed out asleep after an afternoon like that. So kudos to Hemingway. Who knew?
I know. That's right. So, well, thank you guys again. And real quickly, tell everybody like where we can find you, where to look for you, what to follow, if they want to keep up with what's happening with y'all.
Law firm CMO.com, but we are probably most active on LinkedIn, but you can also find us on TikTok and Facebook as well.
All the things. All right. Well, thank you so much, you guys. I really appreciate it. And hopefully we'll talk again soon when your podcast is live.
Looking forward to it. You better believe it.
All right. Thank you.